There's nothing quite like football Fridays in West Georgia. This is the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast.
Welcome to the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Taylor, and I'm joined by my co-host, my producer, and my father, Mark Taylor.
All right, man. I'm so proud of you, Mason. This is a long time coming. For those that don't know Mason, he is a high school student at Carrollton High School here in Carrollton, Georgia. And as far as we know, is the only high school student that is covering West Georgia high school football. And this is a long time coming, y'all. This has started when he was 6 years old. I remember when I took you to the first time to the College Football Hall of Fame, and they have some interactive things you can do there. And I remember watching you. I knew you had a gift early and that you had a passion for football, certainly. But the ability to be able to call games and to just analyze the game and break down the game, you were in this booth and you had the ability to be able to call a game just like the broadcasters, but you couldn't read very good back then. So you had to read the teleprompter. So you watched the three games. I think one of them was the Iron Bowl where the kick six where Auburn beat Alabama.
Right,
and
Chris
so
Davis, yep.
There were some people staying outside the booths with their kids and they're watching you, and so you got to watch the commentator, and then you were supposed to then call the game yourself, but read off the teleprompter as though you were calling the game. But people realized very quickly you weren't reading the teleprompter. You were just making up your own words because you knew how to call the game. And that came from like just many hours watching YouTube football and games and watching them breaking down and call the games. But then I think also just Madden, learning all those plays and offense, defense, and got to time where I couldn't even beat you in Madden anymore.
Right.
And then
Still can't.
And all these years later, still can't. And then you started playing football at age 7 and didn't stay with football, but you stayed with the love of the game. And I think that that's pretty special. So the purpose of the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast is to bring the energy and the pride of West Georgia high school football straight to the fans that enjoy it. We're here to celebrate the rivalries. We'll relive highlights and deliver insightful coverage, inspiring stories, in-depth analysis by Mason. Will spotlight student athletes, engage local communities, and will fuel, hopefully, the passion for the game on and off the field. There's nothing quite like football Fridays in West Georgia. This is the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. So Mason, let's get into it.
All right.
Inaugural episode that we have to kick off the 2025 season. We're looking forward to quite a bit actually this year. There are some great games that are going to be happening. Kicking off this Friday night here in West Georgia, 9 high schools in the region that we'll be covering. And so today, let's get into it. Let's talk about team spotlights. Let's look at week 1 preview, and then we're going to get into a new section we're going to be introducing every week called Blitz, because I'm just going to be throwing some stuff at you, bringing some stuff straight to you that you're going to have to answer kind of quick off the cuff type thing, and just as it comes to mind. And then we'll wrap it up today with some final thoughts. That'll be your observations and opinions, and kind of give us some insight to how you see things going forward for the rest of the season. So let's start with team spotlights. What you got for us?
All right, well, first we'll start off with Bowden. Bowden is obviously the number 1 team coming in for 1A Division II. Coming off of a three-peat, 13-2 last year. They lost in the first game to a heartbreaker. Last second 2-point conversion by Fellowship Christian to lose at home. They also lost by 8 points to Manchester. That cost them the region title. But even though they didn't win region, they ended up going and winning the state championship, beating Brooks County. They're obviously looking to four-peat this year. They take on Fellowship Christian week 1. We'll get into that later, but they're definitely going to want to get back on that one. Richard Finley, he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders, but I think they're in a position right now where they have so much depth, and they obviously have a system that works. I mean, they've won 3 state championships with 3 different quarterbacks. I think they got it down pat. They know what they're doing, but it's pretty apparent that they're the favorite to win down there, and it's expected that they win.
Sure.
Then you've got Bremen. Bremen, they're coming off of a 6-5 season. Head coach is Davis Russell and goes by Rooster. a little bit of an iffy season last year. Had some highs, had some lows. Lost in the first round of Commerce and actually a one possession game. Obviously, they're going to want to get back to a couple years ago when they were in the quarterfinal picture with the 9-3 season, but they're in that region with Heard County, Harrelson County, Temple, Darlington, and they got a really not a loaded region per se, but a really deep region. They got Rabun County, Bowden. I mean, some really tough non-region games, but they're obviously going to want to get back up to that quarterfinal and even better than that. Carrollton obviously coming off of a 14-1 season, that one coming in the state championship to Grayson. A lot of guys that they've lost, a lot of guys that they've gained. Joey King entering his, I believe, 5th season as the head coach, and he's won 2 at Cartersville. He's lost 2 at Carrollton. So this year, I think for Carrollton fans, it's expected that they get at least to the semifinals, if not potentially even compete or win a state championship. Obviously, they're in a loaded region with Douglas County, Westlake, etc. They have a loaded non-region schedule as well with teams like Gainesville and Parker, Alabama, Rome, Woodward Academy, who's their first game of the season.
Yeah, it's going to be a big one.
Oh, yeah. And
is that going to be on ESPN? Do we know?
I haven't heard that it's going to be on ESPN, but I'm sure it'll probably be televised. I'm not sure, though.
Everybody be tuning in to these games.
It was on ESPN last year, but I know it was a lot more different stars for each team. They had seniors that were high profile with their dads being in the NFL and whatnot, and ours obviously Julian Lewis and other guys who were seniors last year being high profile as well. That was the reason that was on ESPN. But so Carrollton obviously coming off 14-1. I believe the 4th time they've lost in the state championship since their state championship in 1998. So they're coming off of a little bit of a bittersweet ending last season. Central, they're coming off a 9-3 season. Obviously, head coach Umbra Brown entering his 3rd year there at Central. His first season there, they went 10-0 regular season, ended up going 12-1, lost in the quarterfinal. Obviously, last year they went 9-3. They lost to Oxford, Alabama, in a kind of a shootout game at home. They lost by 10. They lost to Stars Mill in a heartbreaker by 3 on the road. And,
that was tough.
Even though they lost that game, they still ended up winning the region because of Jonesboro. And then
that's the way it plays out.
Right. And they have a loaded region as well. They have Harris County, Jonesboro, Stars Mill. That's 3 pretty decent teams all the time. And then obviously they lost in the second round to a really stacked Cambridge team. We scrimmaged against Cambridge last season.
Carrollton.
Yeah. And they had really, really good season, and they obviously ended up defeating Central. So Central's going to want to get back to what they had where they went 10-0 in the regular season and get better past the second round, past the quarterfinal, and potentially semifinal finish. But they're in a stacked region, stacked class in 4A. They have a stacked region, so it's going to be tough for them. But they have obviously Jonas Walton, J.R. Harris. Yeah. And I'm not going to go too far into that, but
and he's already committed, or is he still waiting?
Jonas is committed to Notre Dame. He's a 4-star, and you have J.R. Harris, who a lot of people, you would think the way he plays that he's a senior this year, and he's only a junior. So they have him this year and next year. He's started even as a freshman, so he's a very experienced guy, a little bit undersized. But,
so we get to watch him for the next 2 seasons.
Right.
That's good. Okay.
And then obviously, you got Central. Next, we have Haralson County. Haralson County coming off of a really rough season. They went, I believe, 1-9.
Yeah, it was
but
tough.
that was first. It was the first season of Randy Crutchfield being the head coach. He's entering his 2nd year there, so they're in a rebuild right now.
Was that because they lost so many seniors the year before?
Yeah,
was that the season before they had a great season? And then
back in like 2021, when they had Coach Peavy, they had a really good senior class. They went like 10-2 or something like that. And that's when they beat Bremen, and that was all over the radio.
So we're 4 years removed from that.
Right. And they just haven't really been able to recover. And again, they have a stacked region as well. They got Heard County, Temple. I mean, it's just tough for them. And their non-region schedule, I mean, they had a scrimmage against Manchester, so that can get them real prepared. Manchester obviously being a top 10 team in Division II, but they play in Division I, and they have a lot of size, believe it or not, on the offensive line. They have some guys who are 6'3", 6'4". They have Kemp Boyd, who's a 6'3" junior wide receiver. But they really just need some time to rebuild with Coach Crutchfield. They got to buy into what he's doing, and hopefully he can get them back to what they used to be with Coach Peavy. But, yeah, they took a big loss when that senior class a couple years ago graduated, and they just haven't really bounced back since. Next, you got Heard County. Heard County, Shane Lasser, I believe he's in year 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. And his son is Max Lasseter. He's a senior defensive lineman this year, and he's actually probably one of the best defensive lineman in Division One. Even though he's not he's 6 foot 220. I mean, that's a linebacker size. That is not a defensive line, but down there in Division One, I mean, he gets it done.
But it gives you some speed,
right? And he
gives you some problems.
I believe he had over 90 tackles as a defensive lineman last year. I mean, just incredible. They went 9-3. They won the region, beat Temple, Bremen, teams like that in region play to get that done. And the year before that, I believe they went 5-6. So to go from 5-6 to 9-3 is incredible. Yeah. They lost by 2 points on the road to Murphy, North Carolina last year. They lost, I believe, by 14 points on the road at Bowden last year. And then they lost to Elbert County in the second round. And that one was kind of a little bit of an upset for Elbert County because I think Heard County coming in that game, they had a lot of confidence. I kind of had a lot of confidence for them. I thought they were going to at least make it to the quarterfinals, but they did lose, I believe, by 2 or 3 points to Elbert County, and you just don't want that to happen. But they have a really bright future for this season. Ethan Tisdale threw for almost just under 2,000 yards last year, 21 touchdowns, ran for 21 touchdowns, and over 1,300 yards. So that is an incredible stat line. So now he's a junior, and he's like J.R. Harris. You got 2 more years. That's going to be an interesting game between them and Bowden. I saw the Heard County Central scrimmage this year, and
and we'll get in some of those highlights a little bit later. But talk about some of that because I know you got to go to the Carrollton scrimmage. You got to go
Mount Zion, Bremen, and then Heard County Central.
Yeah, okay. And, so you got to cover 3 of those.
Yeah, and I'll get into that later. But sky's the limit for Heard County. I think they're in control of their own destiny. Obviously, when you run into some teams that like Toombs County or like a Northeast Macon or a Worth County, those teams that are in the top 5, top 10 of Division One, obviously it's a little bit of a different ball game. But for their schedule right now, I think sky's the limit. They start out with an easy opponent in Clarkson, who's probably one of, if not the worst teams in 4A. Mount Zion. Last year went 3-7. They've been with Coach Brad Gordon, I believe, for at least 7 seasons now. I know back in 2017 they went to the semifinals. I think that's the best season they've ever had. But coming off a 3-7 season, obviously not what you want to go for. You want to have at least a 5-5 or better than that. They beat Chattahoochee County pretty badly week 1. I believe it was 34-0. They play Ranburne. Last season, you could argue for most of the season they were a top 10 team in Division 2. You had Bowden, who's don't have to say much about them. Manchester, who has been in the semifinals or better for the past 3 seasons, and they're a top 10 team in Division 2. So that's 3, and then the only other team in their region is Greenville. So really, it's going to be between Mount Zion and Greenville. That's how it was last year. Whoever wins that game is going to get that 4 seed, unless they upset one of those other 3 teams. But one of those teams is going to be the 4 seed coming into the playoffs. I think they have players to get it done, but we'll just see if they do. I think I have higher expectations this season than last season, and I'll explain why later. I have them probably going around 6-4, maybe 7-3. I definitely think they are going to have a winning season this year, but they have weapons. For example, Xavier Buckner, who is 6'4", 205 as a senior, and but it's a team effort. It's not just a one-man game. Temple, they're coming off of a 9-3 season. That was arguably, other than one other season with, I believe, Coach Marty Wild, their best season ever. They went to the second round, got beat by a really good Thomasville team on the road, I believe. But they came in second in region.
That's South Georgia teams now. That's, man, I tell you what. Now, we say there's nothing like football Friday nights at West Georgia. They would say differently. They would say it's South Georgia. But look, we'll welcome in the smoke. We'll bring that conversation into this. Come on, come on the podcast. We'll be fine. We'll talk about it. Right? Yeah. Because they got some ballers. I mean, they can play some football down there. Sure. That's smash mouth football down there. That's your Colquitt County. That's your Lee County. That's your Thomasville. I mean, who else is down? Valdossa's down there.
Lee County.
Thomas County Central. I mean,
those are higher up. Those are bigger schools.
Absolutely. But
you got the Brooks counties.
That's some football. Yeah. But we may have to meet some of those in some of the playoffs. But anyway.
But yeah, Temple coming off a 9-3 season. The only team they lost to in region was Heard County, and I'm not sure about this year because they did lose their leading rusher, C.J. Gray, who rushed for over 1,300 yards last year. Was kind of their star player on offense, I would say. They have some dogs at offensive linemen that come back as seniors this year. Obviously, they lost their 3-star safety, Manny Watkins, last year. He's at Jacksonville State now. So they didn't really lose a lot. They lost some key guys, but they return a lot of guys. I think that's why they're kind of there's a little bit more of a higher expectation for them coming in this season. But Coach Corey Nix, obviously his son Hudson Nix is a junior, and he's got the stat line that would just hop off the page. You got guys like Dominic Alosi and Ryan Self and Jackson Gribben, just some of these guys that you're expecting big seasons from, and they're all state or all region or what. But I don't know if Temple's going to win. I wouldn't say they're going to win the region. I don't know about all that now. I would like to see an upset. Nothing against any of the other teams, but I right now don't see them being maybe as strong as last year. Maybe they're going to get back to that level, but second round losing to Thomasville was tough last year after kind of the momentum they just had going in the whole season, honestly. But they start off with McNair week 1. That should be a pretty easy game for them at home, but kind of just getting out the nerve. And if you know anything about Rockmart, they're a top 10 team in 2A. They're always in the semifinals or state championship picture, wherever they're at. So that's really good for them. And then lastly, we have Villarica. And Villarica
we close it out with Villarica Wildcats.
One of those teams I don't like to really – they're interesting. And
every year I keep saying this is their year, but
we'll see. As a Carrollton Trojan,
I like the purple and gold. I'm from Louisiana.
All right.
Shout out to LSU Tigers. Go Tigers. I can say go Tigers.
Villarica, coming off of, I believe, a 5-6 season, they got whooped up on in the first round by Brunswick, which that's tough. You have to go on the road to Brunswick, number 1, and then they were a really good team. They're always, right now they're probably a top 10 team in 5A. If not, they're in that top 20 at least. Villarica has a tough region. They have East Spalding, who's really good. Yeah. They got other teams like Kennesaw Mountain, and you got New Manchester. I've heard a lot of good things about their defense. They have size on that defensive line, that's for sure. You got guys who are 6'2", 225, 6'2", 235. They have some guys who have just pure size. Offensive line, you got Jarius Shivers. His brother plays at South Carolina, and he's, 6'4", 315, something like that. He's just huge. Even their quarterback's 6'2", 200. So they have some guys who are just built, but we got to see them be able to play like how they're built, like use that size to their advantage.
Your cousin Will Campbell, shout out to Will, who just went 4th round to the NFL draft. 4th overall pick. Sorry,
he's making too much money to be going 4th round.
Sorry about that. Yeah, 4th overall to the Patriots from LSU, but started as a freshman lineman. Any standouts like that do you see on that team?
Villarica specifically?
Yeah.
I can't really say that because I feel like Jarius Shivers, since he is becoming a senior, I think he's already had time to prove. Obviously, he has a whole nother season to prove himself. But when you say like a Will Campbell, that's tough to be compared to. I think, that's like saying you're Trent Williams or, just Tyron Smith. Like, that's just, I'm not going to do that to anyone around here. That's just a tough position to be in. But I definitely think that, obviously, with his brother being at the level he played in high school, and he's now at a D1 school in the SEC, he has potential. He obviously has
toughest conference out there. We all know that.
He obviously has the capability.
Mason's a Georgia Tech fan, y'all. I forgot to put that in the bio.
Go Jackets.
I didn't intentionally leave that out.
Go Jackets.
But anyway,
sting them. Anyways, but yeah,
they gotten stung before. Yes.
All right. No, we do the stinging.
All right.
Not here recently, but
we got a rivalry right here already.
Ask Miami.
All right. So moving on.
North Carolina. And I feel like, Coach Barron and the son of the legendary Coach Barron, the one that won Heard County their one and only state championship to date back in, I believe, 2018. His son, Austin Barron, his wife's actually the softball coach at Carrollton, head softball coach. I think it's her first year. But yeah, he's in, I believe, year 3 or 4, entering year 3 or 4 at Villarica. I'm going to say 3. But when you have a dad like that is just kind of legendary around, at least around here, and he knows what it's like to win a state championship, that's obviously a great tool to have. But it's like he said in the interview with, I believe his name's John Stewart, whoever the guy from GPB is at the media day. It's just, they need to be more consistent. They've had, like last year, they had flashes where they could be what they want to be. Like, they could be a top team. They could be a good team, a team that can beat a Rome or can even compete with a Rome at least. But they just, I think with it being young, and then also not only just being young, but with a new coach and all, and still trying to rebuild kind of, get back to that, the glory days of like the 80s or, whenever they had their glory days. But just consistency, I think, is going to be key for them, especially because defensively they have so much talent, so much potential. but they just got to be able to consistently go out there and shut offenses down and get off the field and get their offense on the field, and then offense got to be able to come on and score. But I think Villarica is either going to be one of those teams that's just like last year, going to go 4-6 or something like that and just be kind of mid or kind of awful, or they're going to be one of those teams that are going to really surprise. And I'm not going to say they're going to go out and win state because that would be a little facetious of me, but one of those teams that can really kind of be like a dark horse, a team that you just kind of didn't see coming, and they're like, even for Rome, like a team that could potentially even upset you for the region title. Like, I'm not saying Villarica would win the region title, but Rome would be knocked off of that, and they wouldn't win region because of them. But they definitely have the tools to do it. I keep saying that, but they definitely have the potential to do it. They have a great coach. They have great players. They need to do it. They need to prove it out on the field. And they got a really hard test in Troup County week 1 on the road, a team that beat them by over 30 points last year at home. They got their work cut out for them, that's for sure.
And we wish them all the best this season. So great spotlights. So now, as far as week 1 preview, what do you see?
So starting out with Bowden, Fellowship Christian. Obviously, I touched on this earlier. Bowden lost 36-35 last year at home, week 1. Fellowship Christian beat them, 2-point conversion, literally at the buzzer. Now, Bowden kind of shot themselves in the foot in that game, especially towards the end there. They shouldn't have lost to Fellowship Christian. But Fellowship Christian, it's not like they didn't have players. I mean, they have some dogs. CJ Givers, who I'll get into in a second. I mean, he's 3-star going to Duke. They had Josh Petty last year, who was a 4-star, he might have been a 5-star, ended up going to Georgia Tech, sting him. But my key players to watch for this game.
Georgia Tech is not sponsoring this podcast, although if they want to, they certainly can. That would pay for, or give Mason a scholarship. That would be awesome.
I'm honored. But for Bowden, key players to watch, obviously, the one and only, one of the best players, not even in just the state, but the entire country. Caden Prothrow, obviously, 5-star senior. I mean, it's going to be hard for anybody in the whole state to shut him down. And that's just,
can't stop him.
No, that's the star player for Bowden. I mean, it has been for the past couple of years.
Can't stop him. Don't sleep on him.
Right.
Okay.
AJC Super 11. So, next guy is Jonah Wilson, 6'1", 225-pound tight end. He's committed to Samford, a D1 FCS school. Jonah Wilson actually started out his high school career at Central, ended up transferring to play his junior year at Bowden, helped him win the state championship last year. And he's kind of an interesting guy because he plays tight end. Sometimes they have him at running back, and they'll run him in, like if it's a red zone situation, they'll run him in. He had like 4 touchdowns last year just rushing. But he also plays defensive end. He had 7 sacks last year and just was a monster coming off the edge. And obviously when you're 6'1", 225, I mean, that's pretty good size, obviously for a tight end, a little bit short on the shorter side. But he's definitely one of those guys who, especially this past season, like moving to Bowden was a good move for him because he got a lot more exposure, especially being in the state championship situation. But not only that, but I mean, he's been able to show what he can do. He fits in well with Bowden. Next, obviously, Josh Hopkins, and this is a guy that not a lot of people are going to know about. I mean, he's coming from Johns Creek. Johns Creek's coming off a 0-10 season, so that was not good. But 5'10", 175, kind of familiar size with the past quarterbacks at Bowden. He's kind of like the size of a Bryce Young from Alabama. Both of them 5'10". But last year, he threw 9 touchdowns, no interceptions as a starter. And that was in 8 or 9 games. Threw for over 1,100 yards. So this kid knows how to keep the ball away from people. And they were in a region, I believe, with teams like Gainesville and Milton and Roswell. So it's not like they were playing in a cupcake league or a cupcake region. I mean, that was a tough region. And not throwing any interceptions, that's pretty good. So I expect a lot from him. He's also very mobile. That's one of the things I have written down. Dual threat with a history of 0 turnovers last season at Johns Creek. That's what I have written for him. And then the last guy I'm going to touch on for Bowden is Marcus Harper, 6'4", 225 pounds, senior defensive end. One of the key players on that defensive line.
Dominant defense.
He's an athletic edge defender. And really for this game specifically, he's going to be kind of the guy that's going to help limit their Fellowship Christian's runs on the outside. And you're going to see why in a minute, why they're going to need that. For Fellowship Christian, the first guy that's a key player, CJ Givers, 5'10", 195 pounds. He's a 3-star senior running back. He's committed to Duke. Gave him some problems last year. Also plays safety. Explosive playmaker, can change the game with one touch. And there's a lot of guys that can change the game with one touch.
Hashtag playmaker, not faker.
Right. And he's just another one of them, another face that can change the game on a dime. Next guy, Simon Cofrancesco, 6'1", 185. Senior wide receiver, defensive back. Better at the defensive back position. He's a transfer from Kings Ridge Christian. I don't know if y'all know where that's at. I believe it's in Alpharetta. But last season had 5 interceptions on the defensive side. He's gonna be a problem. And it's like you have a quarterback who did not throw a single interception last season, and he's going against one of the guys on their team who's the best player who had 5 interceptions. That's going to be interesting to see kind of that dynamic and if he's going to take care of the ball or if they're going to be able to kind of get some turnovers out of him. And the last one is Noah Hazard, 6'1", 185, senior defensive end. He also plays linebacker. And he's going to probably be their best shot at disrupting Bowden's run game or even getting sacks. But the keys to success, I'm going to kind of blow through these because I don't want to take too long on them, but first, for Bowden, leverage size and physicality up front. You know, their offensive line, you got John Harden, who's a junior, 6'5", 315. You got Stuart Powell, 6'4", 255. Those are your tackles. And then you also got Harrelson County transfer Jace Turner, 6'2", 290. This will be his one and only year at Bowden since he's a senior, but he's coming from Harrelson County, and he was kind of the anchor on that offensive line. But they're going to need to control that line of scrimmage. They should control the line of scrimmage. And if they do, it'll give the quarterback not only time to find all his targets, but also some lanes to scramble because he likes to be mobile. He can be mobile. He has the size to be mobile. So they're going to be key. 2, feed the stars in space. Obviously, when you have Caden Prothro, Jonah Wilson, they're going to be nightmare situations. They're going to be jump balls. You're going to want to get them on some seam routes, some RPO schemes, some obviously jump ball situations like I just touched on because fellowship defensive backs, they're going to have a tough time already. And if you're throwing just anything and everything at them and it's working because you have playmakers to do it, it's just going to be such a tough time for them.
I agree.
3, defensive containment of CJ Givers. He's the most explosive offensive weapon for fellowship. Obviously, Bowden's front sevens. You got defensive end Marcus Harper. You also have Jack South, who comes off that defensive end. He's just aggressive. I like the way he plays. He plays mean. It reminds me of Shamar Arnaud from Carrollton last year. He just plays aggressive, just all up in your face. He just wants to hit everyone hard and just go at it all game long.
Arnaud was that Arnaud that put a hit on that kid?
He's the one that tracked down Jaden Harmon, the linebacker and running back from Roma, just came out of nowhere. And he had a huge run, but he came out there and boom, and he hit him hard. I'm just like, well, it doesn't matter because he got that huge run, but I'm like, yeah,
that was a Tadao movement right there.
They're going to need to set the edge. They're going to need to keep him from bouncing outside. And then 4, they're going to need to limit turnovers and big plays. Fellowship, obviously, like I've mentioned, they thrive on defensive turnovers. With a quarterback who threw no interceptions last year, he's going to need to stay patient, and he's not going to need to give them short fields if he can help it. For Fellowship Christian, get CJ Givers rolling early. You know, even against Bowden size, Givers' speed and vision can be dangerous if he gets to the second level. They're going to need to force the quarterback off script. Obviously, Hopkins is poised, but Noah Hazard and some other guys like blitzing defensive backs help collapse the pocket, get him on 3rd and long situations, just kind of get him off his rhythm, make him really just thrown off and more prone to make mistakes. And I think that's kind of an obvious thing for any game, but especially for him since obviously that's that big stat, that 0 interceptions, and I keep pointing back to that, but that's just when you're a starting quarterback in 5A and you throw no interceptions and you played almost 10 games, I mean that's tough to do. That's tough to do no matter what team you're on. That's tough to do. So that's why I keep pointing back at that, but that's an absurd stat. I mean, that's wow. 3 secondary must-win jump balls. Obviously, they're going to throw to Prothro and Wilson. Defensive backs like Simon Cofrancesco, another name that I haven't mentioned, Colton Driscoll. They're going to need to be aggressive at the catch point. They're not going to need to get boxed out. Obviously, when you're 6'1" and you're going to get someone who's 6'6", it's a little bit difficult, but you're going to need to use your strength. You're going to need to be able to just kind of stay with them the entire way because, believe it or not, even though he's 6'6", 210, he is fast. He is quick. I mean, he is just unbelievably fast for his size. And he's like a Calvin Johnson. Obviously, that's hard to do, but that's just the size, just the way they're able to use their size. It's very similar. And lastly, create special teams and turnover opportunities. I'm going to say this a lot tonight about special teams and turnovers, but obviously, when you have someone again like a Cofrancesco, 5 interceptions, you want anything that you can get to swing momentum, especially with turnovers. Now, my other notes that I have. Mismatch alert. I think Bowden size in the trenches obviously going to be the deciding factor because you want to dominate the trenches. You want to dominate the line of scrimmage. Another one I kind of pointed out, and I haven't looked at the weather, but weather and field conditions, because, if it's wet.
I think we're supposed to have good weather.
Right. Well, if it's wet, it's going to favor
Maybe a little humid.
It's going to favor Bowden's power game more than Fellowship's speed-based attack. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Momentum swings, Fellowship.
Be something to look for,
Yeah. Fellowship can't afford a slow start. Bowden has the firepower to run away early. That's another thing. We've seen some teams in the past just start slow. You can't have that in this game if you're Fellowship Christian, because Bowden's going to come at you quick and fast. They're ready. They're eager, especially in that Callaway scrimmage where they kind of got beat by Callaway a little bit. They're coming out with something to prove. And even though they've won 3 state championships in a row, they're definitely going to come out with a chip on their shoulder. And especially with this team beating them last year by 1 point at home. So they're going to come out with, you don't want to fall behind if you're Fellowship Christian. You want to come out and match their energy. And then discipline factor. As Carrollton spectators and fans over the years, we know a lot about penalties. Even in the scrimmage, we saw a lot of penalties. Penalties are killer. And this is for both teams, not just for Fellowship or Bowden. But for that specific situation with pro throw, obviously that's a little bit more prone to be a penalty. So my final prediction for the game, score prediction, I don't know if you have one after listening to all this, but I think it's going to be a 5-point game.
5.
Give me Bowden 28-23 on the road to take week 1 1-0.
All right. We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Right. Woodward Academy at Carrollton.
Let's go.
Carrollton coming in ranked number 4.
Now, look, we went to this game last year, home opener. Right. It was at Woodward. ESPN was there. Huge storm comes up at halftime, blew in. And I think the only people left in the stadium on both sides was the student section. They had no shirts on. And that was pointed out on ESPN. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, and they had no shirts on. They looked like they were
no shirt.
Sick.
Yeah.
But anyways, that last year, that game, that's when Julian Lewis came out, threw an interception, very start. And that was a very common
start out a little slow.
Very common theme for him in some of those games last year. But Carrollton coming in number 4 in 6A.
It worked out for him.
Grayson's number 1, Buford's number 2, Douglas County number 3, and Carrollton number 4. Obviously, Carrollton, when you see that Douglas County number 3, you got to put a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, especially since Douglas County hasn't beaten you in 60 years. But we're focused on Woodward Academy now. Woodward Academy, obviously a top 15 team in 5A. They always are. For this, and this one I can almost go off the dome with it because of just how familiar the Carrollton is to me. Key players. Ryan Mosley, 6'4", 205-pound, 4-star senior wide receiver. He's committed to Georgia. Obviously, he's going to be the primary deep threat. He's a mismatch in size and speed.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, last year we didn't.
He's hard to handle.
Last year he didn't get as many receptions as Peyton Zachary, but he got more touchdowns.
He'll get some touches.
I'm going to use my opportunities to score, whereas Peyton Zachary is going to use his opportunities to extend the play, get the first down, whatnot. Speaking of Peyton Zachary, he's the next one on the list. 5'8", 175, 3-star senior wide receivers committed to UNLV. Wants to go play for Dan Mullins. We'll see how their first season goes at UNLV. But he's a reliable route runner. Also did a lot of punt returning last year. He's just really low to the ground, really quick. They like to throw screens to him. They like to do just about anything with him. He's just like, you can do, jet sweeps with him, whatever you want to do. But he complements Mosley perfectly. I mean, that's just a good 1-2 punch. You have a really tall kid and a really short kid. Dorian Barney, 6'1", 180, 4-star senior defensive back, committed to Michigan. One of the top defensive backs in the state. You could argue he's the number 1 defensive back in the state. Definitely one of the top defensive backs in the whole country. And he's really capable of erasing a wide receiver from a game entirely. Last year in the Douglas County game, he matched up one-on-one with Devin Carter, a 4-star wide receiver. Didn't hear much of Devin Carter for that whole game. You heard a lot of Aaron Gregory, but he was not Aaron Gregory. So that was a way to show he can do that. And even though he wasn't the number 1 defensive back last year, he was doing stuff like that. So, and then the next guy, CJ Gamble, Georgia Tech commit.
That's it.
6'2", 210, 3-star senior linebacker. He lost a little bit of weight. He was 220. Now he's 210. I'm not thinking that it's going to matter. But he's a defensive leader. Obviously, he's kind of leader of that linebacking core. He's a run stuffer. He's sideline to sideline guy. He's a middle linebacker, and he's just one of those guys where he's not going to go out there and be real flashy. He's just going to get the job done. And he had over almost, I don't know if he had over 60 tackles. I know he had over 50 tackles last year. But he's definitely going to be a key part of it. For Woodward Academy, Blake Stewart, 6'1", 180, 4-star senior safety. He's just recently committed to Clemson. He's a two-way leader. He also plays wide receiver. He had the only receiving touchdown for I believe it was, the only receiving touchdown for Woodward Academy last year. That was actually the first touchdown of the game, and he might have had the interception as well. But he can change the game. He's a game changer. He's obviously Woodward Academy's best player. Ryan Harrigan, 6'3", 185, junior quarterback. Last year, he was the backup quarterback. Obviously, their quarterback last year ended up going to Navy, graduated.
Yeah, I was watching them throw it around, when they were just warming up.
He looked like he pushed the ball.
Yeah, I like this kid. I'm gonna look forward to seeing this. I thought he was a starter. I didn't know. And
even with his size.
I just thought, I thought he was their starter, but no, he was actually their backup. So big things for him this year, I think.
But he's going to need to be a steady game manager. I think he is a steady game manager. He's going to need to avoid turnovers. Obviously, the defense is going to come out aggressive, but he's going to need to keep the offense moving. That's for sure for Woodward Academy. But they also have a guy, he's not on my list, but I'm going to shout him out because he's one of the best players in the sophomore class right now, Prince Amari Aminu. He's going to be the backup quarterback, 6'1", 180 as a sophomore. And maybe we'll see a little bit of both of them. I'm going to assume that Ryan Harrigan's going to be the starter because he was the backup last year, but I think either one could get it done. But they are going to trust Ryan Harrigan a little bit more just because he is a year older. He has a little bit more experience, was the backup last year, so on and so forth. Eli Lyles, 5'11", 190-pound junior safety. He's a strong tackler with ball skills. He's going to be key in containing the vertical passing game. Chandler Bell, 5'10", 175, junior linebacker, and you see this trend with 5'11", 5'10 guys. I mean, that's pretty common height for a lot of these guys in the secondary for any of these teams. He's an active blitzer, and honestly, he could disrupt Holtzclaw's rhythm if Holtzclaw is the starting quarterback. I mean, I'm going to assume he's going to be the starting quarterback, but it could be C.J. Cypher. After that scrimmage, I can't really tell.
Will there be some plays where they just kind of run them in and you see Cypher kind of like intentional plays? Kind of like a Cordell Stewart when he was at Steelers. I mean, they just put him in for those red zones.
I don't think they're going to run C.J. Cypher. I think they'd rather run Mason Holtzclaw just because he's bulkier, he's bigger.
And he can run.
Yeah. And I think C.J. Cypher, he's a runner, but he's more of I'm going to throw on the run. I'm not going to scramble. But then another guy, and I don't have really anything to say about him, but he recently just got rated because he's in the sophomore class. The sophomore ratings came out today on 247 Sports. Shout out Quelly Fielder for Carrollton. He's now a 4-star. Jace Walton, who we'll talk about for Central, he's now a 3-star, the younger brother of Jonas Walton, 4-star senior running back. But Torrey Clark, 6'4", 260-pound, 3-star sophomore defensive lineman. He's a big boy. Now, I didn't get a lot of playing time last year as a freshman, but he's a big boy. He's a big boy.
And you left out Cam Wood. One of my favorite players. Right. Well, because he reminds me of Christian McCaffrey. You know, when he was at Stanford and now, of course, then was with the Panthers, Carolina, and then now is with, of course, 49ers. Of course. Man, one of my favorite guys to watch. I mean, because his size, he's low to the ground. But he's got some strength, some muscle tone on this guy. His speed, I think, was like a 4.47, 40. I mean,
pretty fast.
My gosh, but he trucked the kid. If y'all have not seen that highlight, that was everywhere.
From the scrimmage?
Yes, from this last week's scrimmage about last Friday night. But, man, I don't know. I'm glad that, he's had to step up in his senior year. He transferred in, and because of the recruiting rules, which we'll actually get into in some of the episodes, we'll talk about some of the new changes in Georgia high school football. But he had to sit out all last year, but this senior year now is getting to be the guy. So I hope he is the guy because I hope he proves to be that guy because he looked really good during the scrimmage. Don't want to get into that too much.
Well, I knew you were going to point him out. I knew you were going to say something. I knew.
Have to.
He's 5'9", 200 pounds.
He is just bulky. There was so much talk about this kid.
He's as bulky. He's like a pit bull. That's about as accurate as a description you're going to get. A pit bull. Yeah. He's so built, but he's not tall. I mean, he's only 5'9". Yeah,
he's a disruptor.
He came from Buford.
He's a north-south runner. He's not east-west.
Right.
I mean, he'll run the solid. He'll get around the edge because he's got the quickness and it's designed that way. If he's
like a Marshawn Lynch.
He will run up. He will. That's north-south. He's just gonna run right over you.
But he came from Buford.
He stiff-arm a dude on the sideline. All right, enough about that guy.
Yeah. Well, he came from Buford. Obviously, last year he had
huge
to sit out
for us.
Yeah. Well, a playoff rivalry. I had to sit out last year, obviously. I think the reason I didn't put him in there is because he's just not proven. He's unproven, and that's one of the things for like a Kieris Miller, a Tyler Boyd of Carrollton. These sophomore guys.
Can you put him on the underrated list?
Yeah, he's that. Well, yeah, when your only two offers are Shorter and Sewanee, and we know he's better than just that.
But he's a start him now guy.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, all right.
But
so we agree on that.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying he has not put on the black and gold and started in a varsity game. He's never played in a varsity game for the
never
black
playing
and gold
in big
Trojans.
games even for Beaufort.
Yeah, and so he's just unproven. I think after this first game, we're going to really get a good look of him in a real game, pressure, high stakes, all that stuff, packed stadium, whatever you want to say.
Now, we had some other guys. Number 23, I think his dad was that the guy? His dad was a former track coach or
Landon
something?
Walker.
Got some speed, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have
We have some dogs, but that's the reason I didn't put them on the list.
Okay.
I just wanted to kind of put the guys who were really solidified guys who we know are going to go out there and perform
We'll see.
no matter who they play against.
Cam, that's your time to shine.
Right. Prove me wrong.
There you go.
Show me why you should.
He's going to.
Show me why you should.
No, he's going to.
Keys to success. We'll start off with Woodward Academy since they are the away team. They're going to need established ball control and a short passing game. Obviously, Carrollton's secondary, led by Dorian Barney, he's going to be the veteran presence, the leader of that secondary. They thrive on turnovers. He had, 5 interceptions last year just by himself, not to mention all the other guys like Zealous Hicks who had other interceptions. Quarterback Ryan Harrigan should prioritize high percentage throws to avoid giving Carrollton short fields, quick slants, hitches, and running back. Number 2, they're going to need to disrupt the quarterback with a front 7. And here's where it's going to get interesting. Carrollton quarterback Mason Holtzclaw has size, but he can be pressured into mistakes. Last year at Christ School, he was the starter as a sophomore.
North Carolina.
Remember, he reclassed. He was supposed to be a junior this year. He's a senior. But last year in his sophomore year at Christ School in Arden, North Carolina, he threw 7 interceptions in 8 games. So we know he knows he's capable of being pressured and throwing. Now, obviously, he's had a lot of time to grow. He's had a lot of time to play against better players.
We'll see if he's making better decisions.
Yeah. But Miles Tate, Torrey Clark, Chandler Bell, the guys I've listed, they need to collapse the pocket and force throws on the run. And Miles Tate's another guy that I didn't really talk about in the key players to watch. 6'3", 205 coming on that defensive line. Also plays baseball. He's a baseball standout. He's only a junior, though. But these guys, they just have size on the defensive line. And with size, a lot of those guys, when you're only 205 pounds, I mean, you can move most of the time.
Well, in Carrollton, even last year, and I know this has been pointed out in a lot of interviews with Coach King last year, is that even maybe the last 2 seasons, having the smallest guys on the team, like on any team in the state of Georgia, especially in 6A, that on both sides of the ball. But yet, look what they accomplished. So
this
you
year,
got guys with a little bit bigger size this year. Definitely have speed.
This year on the offensive line, you got Zakai Helton, who's 6'3". You got Mateo Wells, who's 5'11", so he's the shortest one. You got Chasten Sheffield, who's 6 foot. Bo Ball, who's 6'4". Quelly Fielder, who's 6'4". That's 3 guys who are 6'3", 6'4". Obviously, last year was different because you had R.J. Sizemore and you had Cole Norrid, so obviously it got a little bit shorter. But the defensive line last year was small. You had C.J. Kelly, who was 6'1", 205. You had Jabari Elder, who was only 5'11". You had Jacob Ricks, who was only 5'9".
But they were dangerous.
But it's because of technique. It's all because of technique. Right. Technique and strength. If you have good technique and you're strong, you can do anything. Because remember, Douglas County, their offensive line's all like 6'3", 6'4", 300 pounds.
It was a dominant D-line.
They're slow.
Love it.
They're slow.
Okay. Well.
They're not quick. But that's what I'm going to say about that. Obviously, they're going to need to collapse pocket and force throws on the run. And if they can do that, they'll be pretty effective. 3, win the turnover battle with Blake Stewart, Eli Lyles in the secondary. Woodward can create momentum-changing plays if they anticipate deep routes to Mosley or Zachary, or even those screens. You can anticipate those screens. It's pretty. You like to say all the time, it's very predictable, but it works.
So predictable.
It works.
Well, that's because of the athleticism and the skill.
Right.
I mean, it'll override.
And for this kind of ties into everything.
You can give them the playbook.
Right. But they
as long as you can execute.
They got to execute. Yeah.
All right.
But. 4, lastly, this kind of ties into everything. Limit Carrollton's explosiveness. I mean, Carrollton has multiple 4-star skill players. Obviously, Woodward's going to need to prevent any sort of deep strikes, any sort of momentum flipping play.
Are we going to see deep strike early from Carrollton?
I don't think so. I think they're going to
play it safe.
Especially with Mason Holtzclaw's history.
It's a big game.
And he threw an interception in the scrimmage.
Hey, this is not
Right.
Christian Academy and
they're secondary, and the good thing is they have a veteran presence in Blake Stewart. and other seniors on their team in the secondary, they're going to need to be disciplined, though. They're not going to need to be able to just bite on double moves or play action or anything like that. They're going to need to be on their A game. And again, in high-stakes games like this, there's so little room, such a little margin for error.
And y'all going to have to minimize those penalties. I'm telling you.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
But for Carrollton, obviously, number one, attack the perimeter early. Ryan Mosley, Peyton Zachary, they can obviously stretch the defense. I mean, that's been seen. They can do it horizontally. They can do it vertically. They can do it sideways. They can do it backward. But early screens and go routes will open up the middle later in the game. I mean, Carrollton has the personnel to win up front. Obviously, Bo Ball looked a little shaky in that scrimmage. Carrollton has the personnel to win up front. They need to protect Holtzclaw and open running lanes for your boy Cam Wood to establish balance. 3, pressure the quarterback relentlessly. Carrollton's front 7, you got CJ Gamble. You got Caden Spratling, who actually now I think is on 3. He's now a 3-star. Like I said the other day, I can't believe he wasn't a 3-star. He's now a 3-star. So you got him. You also got D.A. Logan, who is a Georgia Southern commit on the defensive line. They should test Woodward's protection, disguise blitzes, could force Ryan Harrigan into hurried throws. But another thing on that defensive line, you got Mason McClendon, River Ridge transfer, 6'2", 270. You got Mike Thomas, Big Mike, who's 6'1", 280. So you got some size on that defensive line. We'll see how they do. They were doing pretty decent in the scrimmage.
And you and Big Mike started playing football together in
Rest in peace to Big Mike's dad.
City Rec here in Carrollton, and man, it's been fun watching him develop and grow over the years in his skill and his game and his life. He's a good kid.
And then special teams edge, another thing I talked about special teams for Bowden. Short fields and momentum swings from kick returns or punt coverage. And I will say about this, though, special teams, with that and all, we lost a lot of guys from special teams last year. A.J. McNeil and Kai Callan, they were our kick returners on kickoffs. Obviously, Peyton Zachary was the punt returner, but I think it looked like Cam Wood's going to be the punt returner this year. And I don't know who's going to be the kick returner. I wasn't really paying attention. I think it was going to be Cam Wood as well and another player. But you lost
Peyton Zachary's hard to bring down.
You lost
now.
2 guys in A.J. McNeil and Kai Callan, who were the guys that would take it 90-something yards for a touchdown. And they just had unbelievable speed. But they're not there anymore. So that's a big thing. That's big shoes to fill on the special teams.
Who has the potential to take it to the house every time this year?
Cam Wood. Peyton Zachary.
I saw him in the back, yeah.
Peyton Zachary in the state championship
That means they don't
game.
get to run it back, but I was,
Peyton Zachary in the state championship game had that punt return for a touchdown that got called back for holding.
Yeah.
Another thing for the penalties. Other notes, mismatch alert, Carrollton's receiving duo of Mosley and Zachary against Woodward's defensive backs. That'll be the matchup to watch, I think. Obviously, the quarterback experience gap. Holtzclaw, despite being new to Carrollton, already has experience as a 2-year starter at Christ School, even though, you can say whatever you want, they weren't good, whatever. He still has experience under pressure as a starter. Ryan Harrigan does not have that as a starter. He's a new starter, so that's going to be the quarterback experience gap between the two teams. But here's the likely game flow. How I think it's going to go. I think Carrollton's depth and star power should and are going to eventually wear down Woodward unless Woodward's defense can generate multiple momentum swings. That being said, like with two or more turnovers, some big plays just downfield, just shutting them down defensively, just crushing their spirit. But I don't think it's going to go that way.
Somebody makes a bad decision, pick six. Yeah, they'll deflate you fast. So
here we go. Score prediction. I think Carrollton wins by 19 points. Give me Carrollton 38, Woodward Academy 19. Carrollton taking week 1 at home. I think they're going to clean up a lot of what we saw from that scrimmage.
I think they'll be up by 10.
Up by 10. That's interesting. Central at Spalding. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I know I'm a Carrollton Trojan at heart. And I know we had the Bowden game, which was 2 ranked teams against each other, but I think this is going to be the game of the week. And I'm going to say that.
Okay.
And I'll explain why my score prediction if I didn't even say that.
More than the Carrollton and Woodward.
The matchup itself is going to be closer than what. It's going to be a more entertaining game.
What do you base it on?
Game. I'll tell you right now.
All right, let's go.
Obviously, last year, if y'all don't know, Central beat Spalding 49-6 at home. They're on the road at Spalding this year. Spalding, a top 15 team in 3A. Obviously, Central's a top 15, top 20 team in 4A. But here's what I'm going to say. Key players to watch. Let's see that first. Obviously, for Central, you can't talk about Central without talking about Jonas Walton. 5'10", 215-pound, 4-star senior running back committed to Notre Dame. You have his younger brother, Jace Walton, 5'11", 210. Just recently was rated a 3-star. He's a sophomore running back, and you're going to see a little bit of them kind of both getting looks. It's not going to be one or more one than the other. J.R. Harris, 5'10", 175 junior quarterback. For him, I wrote down efficient passer and mobile threat. He's dangerous in RPOs. I mean, put on the tape, you'll see how dangerous he is, especially on his legs. Yeah. Avery Tanner, 5'8", 150 senior wide receiver, and he's kind of like a Peyton Zachary. He's low to the ground, he's shifty, he's just quick. And then the Rochester
got good cuts.
Right. And then the Rochester twins, Tyson Rochester and Tyler Rochester. Tyson Rochester, 6'1", 180, Tyler Rochester, 6'1", 175. They both play defensive back. And they're really going to be important in shutting down a lot of Spalding's key playmakers. And I think they're kind of, even though they're only juniors, they're kind of the leading veterans of that defense, I think, even though they're not seniors. For Spalding, Kamari Berry, 5'10", 175-pound junior athlete. I wrote down can impact the game in all three phases. He is a speed threat on offense. Noah Ellis, 6'1", 190 senior defensive end. He's a disruptive edge rusher, and he's going to need to get to J.R. Harris if they want, he's going to be a big part of that. Zay Atkins, 6'1", 205-pound sophomore linebacker and defensive end. He's a strong tackler, a lot of TFL ability, and he's going to be key to stopping that run on the inside and on the outside. KJ Mitchell, 6'1", 180, junior quarterback. He's a first-year starter. An interesting thing about Spalding, their leading receiver from last year transferred to Locust Grove, and their starting quarterback from last year, who's a senior now, transferred to Lovejoy. Two of your three best offensive players are not there anymore. And now you have a KJ Mitchell who last year as a sophomore was a backup. Now he's having to take over the reins and first games at home against the top 15.
That's big shoes to fill, though.
And then Jay Davis, 5'10", 150, senior safety, kind of on the skinnier side. He was their leading tackler last season, believe it or not. And I think he could be heavily involved in stopping both Walton brothers. So going into key success, for Central, lean on the Walton-Harris combo. Obviously, that'll always probably be a key to success. The connection between J.R. Harris and Jonas Walton, because Jonas Walton doesn't just get it done on the ground. He gets it done through the air. He was their leading receiver last year. He had the most receiving yards on the team last year and the most rushing yards. So he was just their best offensive player aside of J.R. Harris, who, it's just different. But they were obviously the two best, so you got to shut them down if you're Spalding. For Central, if you want to have success, you got to be able to let that duo tap in and get done what they need to get done. Right. They need to attack the secondary. Spalding has some playmakers in the defensive backfield, but for Central, you got guys like Avery Tanner. You got Alanson Simmons. Alanson Simmons, a former Carrollton Trojan back in middle school, and then Jake Ivester. So those are all three guys. Alanson Simmons, one of the best sophomores in the state of Georgia. So they're going to need to attack that secondary with those guys, and they're very capable of doing it. They have a dominant line of scrimmage. Offensive line, Ben Hobbs, 6'2", 270. Damon Finley, who's only 5'11", but he's 300 pounds.
Yep.
Sam Walker, 6'5", 270, one of the best sophomores in the state. And then Tay Crowder, one of the veteran guys on the offensive line, 6'1", 225, kind of on the shorter side, skinnier side, built like a linebacker, but he plays guard. They're going to need to control the trenches with those guys. They definitely have the size to do it, though. And then they're going to need to limit the quarterback containment. They're going to need to not have lapses on that. KJ Mitchell, he's unproven, but don't get it twisted. He is athletic. He's going to go out there and he's going to give him a fight. And he's not going to go out there and just make mistakes. But they're going to need to keep him in the pocket. They're going to need to keep him they're going to need to force that offense into long downs and just constant pressure on him if they're going to want to succeed. For Spalding, if they want to succeed, they're going to need to win the turnover battle. I think that's pretty basic. They have defensive backs like Tavares Stinson, Brian Kendall, and then obviously we've already said Jay Davis, their leading tackler. Tip balls, risky throws, anything, which is not going to come easy from J.R. Harris. Excuse me. They're going to need to win that turnover battle, and they have guys in the secondary who are capable of doing that. They're also going to need to get creative on offense. What I said for this one was, with a first-year starter at quarterback, they should lean on Kamari Berry. He's an athlete, but they're running back. He's a wide receiver. He's everything. They're going to need to rely on his versatility, jet sweeps, short screens, motion plays, just anything to keep Central's defense off balance. They're going to need to do that. They're obviously going to need to pressure J.R. Harris. Last year, in 12 games, J.R. Harris only threw 3 interceptions. So he's a very, like Josh Hopkins from Bowden, very mistake-free guy. So Noah Ellis and Zay Atkins they're going to need to get off that line, and they have a tough offensive line to get past, but if they can get past that offensive line and get to J.R. Harris, Central's going to have a pretty tough time offensively, and then obviously limit explosive plays. This is kind of a basic one. Central, they strive on big chunk gains, long passes, Jonas Walton going for a long run, Jace Walton going for a long run. So really anything that Central does, Spalding's going to need to just make them go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, or just not have a lot of momentum swinging long chunk or chuck plays. Other notes, mismatch alert. Central's passing game against Spalding's young secondary could decide the game if Harris has time to throw. Again with the quarterback experience gap, Harris is seasoned and highly efficient, started as a freshman. He's now a junior, so he's a 2-year starter. He's going to be a 3-year starter after this year. But KJ Mitchell, he's stepping up into his first full-time role. And then the likely game throw. I think if Central's offensive line controls the game, their balanced offense could prove too much. But I think if Spalding can slow the run and get stops on third down, they can keep it tight into the fourth quarter. And this is where I think that's going to happen. And you're going to hear why. I have Central only by 2 points. Give me Central.
Wait, 2-point conversion?
No, I don't want to say that. But give me Central 27-25.
Ooh.
On the road against a pretty decent opponent in Spalding, and I know a lot of people that know that matchup from last year, they're going to look at them and be like, they won 49-15. They whooped up on them. They're not at home this time. Spalding
I'd say it's going to come down to field goal.
Reloaded.
It's going to be tight. It's going to come down to a field goal. Maybe even an overtime.
I think it's either going to be really tight or Central's going to blow them out the water. It's going to be one of the two. But give me Central close one. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want to see Central win, though. I don't want to see them lose.
Let's just take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll continue with Mason's predictions for week 1. Welcome back to the West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. We are with Mason Taylor, and he's going through week 1 preview, and who we got next?
We have Haralson County, the Haralson County Rebels. They're going on the road, taking on the Mount Pisgah Christian insert mascot. I don't know their mascot. But
get back to you.
But Haralson County last year, they won 14-10. I believe it was at home. Close one. Their key players for each team for Haralson County, Kent Boyd, 6'3", 185, junior wide receiver. He's a deep ball target for quarterback Paxton Ray, who's only 5'8", 125, so he's undersized. You have Weston Baker, 6'4", 280, junior offensive lineman.
Undersized but underestimated? We'll see.
We'll see, yeah. He can get it done. Weston Baker, 6'4", 280, junior offensive lineman and defensive tackle. He's kind of an anchor on both sides of the line. There's other linemen too, but I didn't put them on here. Colton Hudson, 6'2", 180, senior tight end and linebacker. He's a two-way contributor. And then Caleb Hughes, 5'10", 200 pounds, senior tight end and defensive end. He's a strong edge presence on defense. For Mount Pisgah Christian, they have Ryan Pardini, 6'2", 195, junior quarterback. It's his first year as a starter. Their starting quarterback last year transferred, I believe, to Wesleyan. So his decision-making is going to be critical. We got the Ainsworth twins, the Tristan Ainsworth, 5'8", 175, junior wide receiver and defensive back. And then Tanner Ainsworth, 5'8", 170, junior wide receiver and defensive back. They're almost like the same person, same exact size and everything. But they can both impact the game. Key interceptions, big catches, it doesn't matter. Even though they're not very big, at the Division I level, against Haralson County, it's not really going to matter because they can tear it up. And then George Thompson, their defensive leader, 6'2", 200-pound, senior linebacker and safety. He's going to be heavily involved in stopping the Haralson County run game. So Haralson County, keys to success, they're going to need to control the line of scrimmage. They have Weston Baker, who's obviously we just mentioned, Walker Ward, Jacob Kilgore, other guys on the offensive line. They're going to need to win in the trenches to not only protect quarterback Paxton Ray, who, as I just mentioned, is only 125. He's kind of fragile, and open the run game. 2, they need to establish a ball control offense. They don't have really any proven explosive playmakers, according to stats at least, but they're going to need to keep Pisgah's offense off the field. Short passes to Kent Boyd or to Colton Hudson and power runs behind Baker or Ward, they can shoot the clock. They need to pressure Ryan Pardini, obviously with him still developing as a full-time starter. Defensive pressure can force mistakes and swing momentum. And then they're going to need to avoid costly mistakes, and this is kind of a basic one, but field position always matters. It's always mattered. It will always matter. So Harrelson can't afford to just turn over the ball or have mistakes on special teams.
They will capitalize on it.
Right, yeah. Mount Pisgah Christian, well, especially since Mount Pisgah Christian wants their get back from last year, because that was a close game. And they're kind of right up there with level. Mount Pisgah Christian keys to success. One, they're going to need to get Pardini comfortable early. Obviously, with him being a new starter, he's going to need to settle down. Those nerves are going to be high. Good thing is he's at home, so he has the home crowd supporting him. But he's going to need to get those nerves high. Can't afford mistakes early. The Ainsworth twins are going to need
Don't try too hard.
Yeah, the Ainsworth twins are going to need to kind of help him out a little bit. They're going to need to win on first down. Yeah. William Aliff, who's their running back, he's going to need to create manageable downs for Mount Pisgah, and they do not need to have third and long situations, especially with a new quarterback. But maybe we'll see what he can do on third and long. Maybe he can prove himself that it doesn't matter what down it is or how far, that he can do whatever. But as of right now, he's unproven, so we don't know that. 3, defensive discipline against the run. Harrelson will likely lean on their O-line and tight ends to run the ball. George Thompson and the linebacking unit must stay gap sound and force Harrelson into passing downs. And then 4, they need to capitalize on turnovers. Another basic one. Any extra possession obviously can tilt the game. I think if Pisgah is aggressive after takeaways, they can put quick points on the board. And once you get up on Harrelson, I think if Harrelson gets down early, it's going to be tough to come back.
Yeah, I agree.
Mismatch alert. Harrelson has a size advantage in the trenches. Pisgah has more proven production in the passing game. Game flow consideration. I think if Harrelson can control possession, they can frustrate Pisgah and limit their scoring chances. But I think if Pisgah forces Harrelson into catch-up mode, their passing experience could take over. And then I think it's going to be like this. I think early drives are going to obviously determine momentum. I think if Pisgah can score quickly, Harrelson's going to have some trouble matching pace. And I think they might. But the score prediction, I do not see Haralson County winning this game, unfortunately. But I think it's going to be close. Give me Mount Pisgah winning 28-20 at home, start off the season.
All right.
Close one last year. I think it's going to be just slightly not as close last year, but yeah.
I'm going to say 21-10.
Interesting. Who wins? Mount Pisgah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Clarkson at number 7, Heard County. Obviously, Heard County is the number 7 team coming into the season 1A Division 1. They had their scrimmage at on the road at Central. They also had another scrimmage at home against Tryon. Tryon was number 10 in 1A Division 2 last year. They got swamped by Heard County. Heard County beat them like 40-something to 6. I mean, they just got crapped on. And I don't know if Tryon's just bad or if Heard County's just that good. I think it's a little bit both. But Heard County, obviously, when you talk about Heard County, there's one guy you got to talk about, Ethan Tisdale. They're 6'1", 185-pound junior quarterback. Over 3,300 total yards last year, 42 total touchdowns.
Go Braves.
I mean, he's the heartbeat of that offense, no doubt about it. One of the most underrated quarterbacks in the whole state, along with J.R. Harris.
Yeah.
And he's only a junior. Brody Buck Cofield, 5'10", 150, junior wide receiver, defense back, one of his favorite targets. He's a reliable possession receiver, solid yards after catch ability. Zayden Moreland, another wide receiver, one of the best in Division I, 5'11", 160. He's also only a junior. He's a big play threat. He averaged over 24 yards per reception last year, and he didn't have as many touches as Brody Buck Cofield. Yeah. Andrew Tinker, one of the veterans on the defense, 5'10", 185, senior defensive back, ball hawk defender. He can flip momentum instantly. You have Jackson White, 6'1", 290, senior defensive tackle. Max Lassiter, the son of the head coach, 6', 220, senior defensive lineman. They're both dominant in the trenches. They had a combined 37 tackles for loss last year. Another guy, I didn't put him on here because I didn't really see a lot from him in that scrimmage, but Tatum White, the younger brother of Jackson White, he's 6'5". As a freshman, as a 14-year-old, 6'5". So if he develops like he's supposed to, he can be real.
Did you feel good about that scrimmage?
I think Heard County did well. I don't think they did well capitalizing offensively. Like it was only 21-7 at the starters point.
Yep.
But again, it's Central. Central's 4A, so a lot better in terms of opponents and everything like that.
Run game,
right? But Heard County has some flashes. They look pretty good. TJ Heath, 5'8", 205-pound senior. He plays linebacker, plays running back, and he plays defensive end. He's a physical run stopper and a short yardage option on offense. For Clarkson, not a lot on this team. Not a lot of information on this team, but they have Shakuru Shaka, 5'11", 185-pound senior linebacker. He's the defensive leader. He's going to need to contain Tisdale, which that's going to be pretty hard to do. It's a pretty tall task. I
don't want that job.
Clarkson is the second to worst team in 4A, just to give y'all some context. Antonio Greer.
Clarkson on the east side of Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yep.
Antonio Greer, 5'9", 170, senior linebacker and running back. He's a two-way player. Helps on both sides of the ball. Caden Ferris, 5'8", 140, sophomore, plays wide receiver, defensive back, and safety. He's a young talent with speed. He could be a spark on offense. And then Damian Hunter, their quarterback, only 5'10", 150. He's a senior. He also plays defensive back, but he's a veteran presence. He's going to need to protect that football and manage the offense. But against the Heard County Braves, it's going to be pretty tough to do. Keys to success for Heard County, lean on dual threat quarterback Ethan Tisdale. Obviously, his ability to hurt defenses both through the air and on the ground gives Heard a huge edge. They can mix QB draws if they want to, play action, deep shots to Moreland or Cofield, just whatever they want to do. It's kind of just they're going to do whatever they want to do. They need to dominate the line of scrimmage. Obviously, we got Jackson White, Max Lasser, Luke Meacham on the offensive side of the ball. They can control the trenches if they want to. Force turnovers easily. Andrew Tinker had 5 interceptions last year. TJ Heath was very disruptive on defense last year. A lot of just takeaways, not only just interceptions, but you got to think about forced fumbles, pass deflections, anything like that. And they're going to need to stay aggressive. Obviously, Heard County has a massive talent advantage, but the key's not playing down a competition. It's to playing their ball and making them have to play up.
Play your game.
Right. Yeah. And just put the game away by halftime. Like at halftime, it shouldn't even be a game anymore. It should be decided.
Put them away.
For Clarkson, they're needed ball control and short game. Obviously, limited proven offensive firepower. They should try to sustain long drives, eat clock, and limit Herd's possessions, which is going to be tough. Physical linebacker play with Shaka and Greer. They need to swarm the ball, try to close up those scrambling lanes because Tisdale's going to try and run. He's going to run. Limit big plays. Herd thrives on explosive touchdowns or explosive plays in general. Clarkson's secondary, led by Caden Ferris. They got to prevent deep passes and missed tackles that could potentially turn into small gains or even scores. And then special teams opportunities, again, just do good on special teams. Don't give them a field or don't turn over the ball. Don't give them easy field position because with Heard County, you don't want to give them a short field. They're going to score. But with that, my final thoughts, I didn't really have like what I've had before where I've had the mismatch alert or quarterback gap experience. I just had a final thought because not a lot to look at from Clarkson. I put this matchup is heavily tilted toward Heard County on paper. The Braves have a proven offensive engine, dominant linemen, and a ball-hawking defense. Clarkson will need a perfect game plan, mistake-free execution, and some big breaks to keep it competitive. If Heard gets rolling early, this could get out of hand quickly. With that being said, I have Heard County by 42. Give me Heard County 49-7 at home to start off the year.
All right, we'll see.
Last year they won 62-0.
That's true.
Next, we have Mount Zion at Chattahoochee County. This one was a 34-0 win for Mount Zion at home last year. Obviously, for Mount Zion, they have Xavier Buckner. That's the first guy we're going to talk about for key players. One of the best wide receivers in Division II, along with Bowden wide receiver Caden Prothro.
Big things, yeah.
Xavier Buckner, he has the size of Ryan Mosley, 6'4", 205. They're identical in size. Senior wide receiver, didn't play in the Bremen scrimmage. I guess they were trying to keep him from getting hurt. But he's their most dangerous offensive weapon. He's obviously probably their most dangerous weapon in general for the whole team. Yep. And his size creates matchup nightmares because when you're 1A Division II, it's hard to come by defensive backs who are just that big, or really anywhere. Knox Israel, 5'10", 195 junior quarterback, also plays kind of a little bit of linebacker, but mainly just the quarterback. Also plays baseball. He's a dual threat. He had 17 passing touchdowns last season, but he also brings defensive versatility, like I said. Jaden Aki, 5'9", 190. He's a senior linebacker. He's kind of the leader of that defense, even though he's a little bit undersized. But he's a sure tackler. He's essential for stopping the run game. And then Abram Morrow, this is a guy that he's a sophomore. He's 6'2", 265 is their center. He's the anchor of the O-line, and even though he's only a sophomore, he's kind of like the leader of the O-line, and he's going to be responsible for creating clean snaps and interior blocking. I think that's pretty apparent. Mm-hmm. For Chattahoochee County, they have, again, this was like Clarkson, not a lot of information about this team, but they have Javen Tullis, 6'1", 180, senior athlete. He's a versatile weapon. He can contribute on offense, defense, special teams, just all three phases of the game. Jeffrey Brzezinski, 6'5", 255, junior offensive and defensive tackle. He's a big body in the trenches. He's crucial for protecting the quarterback and stopping Mount Zion's front. There's a video of him dunking the basketball. I mean, he just looked effortless. It's effortless. Right. Rayshawn Delane, 5'9", junior linebacker and running back. He's a key in establishing the run and stuffing the rushing attack. You have their quarterback, Joseph Kemp, who was the backup last year, I believe. He's a junior. He's still developing as a passer, but he can make an impact if he's given short, safe throws and rollouts. Obviously, he could have drastically improved during the offseason. I have no idea. But from last season, he's definitely still developing. Obviously, he was not the starting quarterback last year. But then Israel Hughes, another big offensive tackle, 6'3", 340 pounds as a senior. Massive presence. Obviously, he's going to create mismatches.
You said massive presence.
Yeah. But for Mount Zion, key success, leverage the passing game early. Obviously, when you have Xavier Buckner, he's going to be your go-to guy. I think Chattahoochee County knows that. They're going to try and double-team him, do anything they can to stop him from getting big chunk plays, because Knox Israel, he's going to be going to him. Protect Knox in the pocket. Obviously, when you got Abram Morrow and some other big bodies on that offensive line, you want to protect him. That's one thing they did not do against Bremen in that scrimmage, and he was forced out. He was under pressure constantly. He just couldn't hit any throws when you're under pressure. Limit big plays on defense. Obviously, Chattahoochee has some athletes at skill positions. You want to keep them contained. And then control the clock. Obviously, you want to control the clock for every game. Short passes, running back runs, keep the defense fresh. You want to maintain possession. For Chattahoochee County, you want to win in the trenches. Obviously, when you have two guys that are that big, 6'5", 6'3", 340 pounds, they got to dominate. They can dominate physically, but they need to open some running lanes for their team. They just need to be present.
It's more than just throwing your weight around.
Right.
You got to make some
technique.
Yeah.
They need to establish a run game. Obviously, they need to help out Joseph Kemp. He can't just do it all. Exploit athletic matchups. They have Javen Tolis, Kedrick Jackson, Alquavion Relaford. They're all hands-down playmakers, so they're going to need to exploit some mismatches there for those guys. And then defensive discipline against the pass. Obviously, this is kind of like a thing I pointed out earlier with Bowden. You don't want to pass interfere Xavier Buckner because you're getting beat or because you're smaller. You want to stay with them, but you don't want to be too handsy.
Or out of frustration. Yeah.
Right.
Or impatient.
But my additional notes, matchups to watch, I think Mount Zion's passing attack, obviously Israel Buckner, versus Chattahoochee's secondary, really their discipline. How disciplined are they going to be against that? And this is the one I had potential X factor with. If Chattahoochee County's offensive line can dominate early, I think it could mask their passing limitations and keep Mount Zion's offense off the field. And that would be key for them, especially when they got blown out last year on the road. I think both teams could thrive if they score first. I think Mount Zion thrives off rhythm in the passing game, and Chattahoochee could lean into a clock control ground attack once ahead. With that being said, I do think it's going to be a one-possession game. I think Mount Zion.
Okay.
I think Mount Zion's going to win on the road, but I think it's going to be tighter than. I don't think it's going to be 34-0. I didn't like what I saw in that scrimmage against Bremen. It was kind of disappointing, just offensively not being able. Really, just the plays they were running weren't very creative. The offensive line didn't look very good. The defense was all right. Quarterback play was kind of underwhelming. Obviously, when you don't have your star player out there, it's a little bit different. I understand that, but I think Mount Zion only wins 27-20 on the road.
Okay.
Start off week one.
Well, we wish all the best for Mount Zion Eagles.
All right, second to last game, we have the McNair Mustangs of Atlanta. I think they're from Midtown, actually. They're coming down to Temple to take on the Temple Tigers. Obviously, Temple coming off a pretty good season. For Temple, their key players, first off, we start off with one of the best offensive linemen in Division I, Dom Nicolosi, 6'4", 310 pounds. Can play defensive tackle, doesn't really, though. He's a senior. He's a veteran leader in the trenches. He plays alongside Ryan Self, who's 6'4", 285, also a senior, one of the best offensive linemen in 1A Division I. So they have one of the best offensive lineman duos in the entire class. You have Hudson Nix, the son of the head coach, 6', 215, junior linebacker and running back, had over 100 tackles last year. He's a defensive anchor and a short yardage power back. You have JoJo Jones, 5'10", 180, junior running back and linebacker. Even last year, as the backup behind C.J. Gray, who was their go-to guy at running back, their leader, he had 13 touchdowns as the backup, and he had over 700 yards rushing with only 70 carries. So he's capable of breaking long runs, and he can be scary. Jaden McDaniel, 6', 175, senior athlete. He's a versatile weapon in the passing game, but he's really a ball hawk in the secondary. That's kind of his niche right there.
Right.
And then Brian Bowman, sophomore defensive back, had 4 interceptions as a freshman last year, and he is dangerous when the ball is in his hands. For McNair,
don't sleep on him.
Yeah, don't let his age fool you. Don't let him being only a sophomore just make you think that he's not good. Yeah. For McNair, you have Tay Phillips, 5'7", 145, senior wide receiver and defense back. I think because of his size, he gets underlooked a lot, but he's a dynamic two-way playmaker. He can change the game in a single play, and there's not many players who can do that, but even though he's kind of like my size, only 5'7", he can do that. And then Rashad Blaylock, 6 foot, 175 pounds, sophomore athlete. He's an emerging star. He can make plays on both sides of the ball. He's particularly a red zone threat. Last year as a freshman, his stats only as a freshman were actually pretty impressive when you look at them. For Temple, they're going to need to establish the run early, obviously with JoJo Jones. Hudson Nix as kind of like a short field situation. They can control the tempo and wear down McNair's defense. They need to win in the trenches. They have two of the best offensive linemen in the class to do that. They got to protect Jackson Gribben, who's only 5'9", also had a little bit of trouble with turnovers last year as the backup. Use play action, and then they need to create turnovers. Obviously, Brian Bowman helps them a lot do that. Jade McDaniel as well. For McNair, they're going to need to get Tay Phillips the ball, whether it's through quick passes, whether it's through jet sweeps, special teams. It doesn't matter. Get Tay Phillips the ball. He's a game changer. It doesn't matter how you get it to him, just give it to him.
Give me the ball. Yeah.
And he's like a Peyton Zachary, again, with the size, just so quick and so low to the ground. He's so tiny. 2, exploit the passing game early. Obviously, Temple's defensive strength is in their linebacking core. They need to attack the perimeter with speed, and that could open up things inside later for them. Ball security, they cannot afford turnovers. They can't afford to fumble. They can't afford to throw interceptions because Temple's going to capitalize on them. And then defensive discipline. Temple has multiple backs who can break big plays. If McNair's defensive backs and linebackers, if they can stay in their gaps and contain the edges, they can be very successful. With that being said, there's an experience edge. Temple returns more seasoned varsity contributors across the board, particularly in the trenches, like I pointed out earlier. McNair's opportunity, if McNair can limit Temple's run game, force Gribben to throw under pressure, they can create turnovers. Special teams impact. Both teams have athletes who can swing momentum. They're going to need to really, whichever team can do better with turnovers and special teams are going to be the team that's going to win. And then physicality check. Obviously, Temple's offensive line size or defensive line size is it's going to be a little bit of a reality check for McNair. And if Temple can build a lead early with their run game, it's going to be a little bit scary for McNair. With that being said, I have Temple winning 31-14 at home.
Ooh. All right.
They won 23-6 last year on the road. So that's a little bit of context for you. Last but not least, the Villarica Wildcats.
Let's go.
We always finish with the
Wildcats. Let's go.
They're on the road taking on the Troup County Tigers.
Yes, they are.
And Troup County, one of those teams that's definitely top 15 in 3A. They're down there. They play against teams like LaGrange and Sandy Creek. I mean, that's tough teams to play against. So they're well aware of how to win. Last year, they won 39-6 at Villarica. For Villarica, their key players, Matthew Eubanks, 6'2", 200-pound junior quarterback. He's going to be in his first starting quarterback role this year. He's going to need to manage the game, avoid turnovers, just all the things, make high percentage throws. You don't want to make mistakes against this Troup County team. Kamari Humes, one of their defensive leaders, 6'2", 225, coming off the edge there as a senior. And he's their premier pass rusher. He's a game changer. And then Luke Hale, 5'11", 195 senior linebacker. He's their defensive leader. And he's going to be a big part of kind of just reading and calling things out for that defense. And for Troup County, their top players, Jay Warner, 5'10", 180, junior running back. He's actually, I think, a pretty underrated running back. I think you'll see him be at least a 3-star by the time he ends high school.
Why is that? Why do you think he's underrated?
Just when you look at the film, just the way he plays, and when you look at the stats, his stats say it all. And he has great size to do it. He's 5'10", 180. I mean, as a running back, obviously not as bulky, but he's 5'10". So he's not like he's super short. But I wrote down offensive centerpiece with big play potential. Garrison Edwards, he was the backup quarterback last year, 5'10", 185 senior quarterback. He's a dual threat, punishes defenses. The interesting thing about this team, though, their starting quarterback from last year comes back, and their backup quarterback comes back, and they're both seniors. Or no, the starting quarterback was a junior, I believe. But the thing is, based on the stats from last year, I think the backup was better. I mean, just made less mistakes. He also had that dual threat ability to him. So we'll see who starts. Garrison Edwards had a couple big plays against Villarica last year, but we'll see who starts. And then Skyland Strawn, 5'9", 180, senior linebacker. He's the defensive heartbeat. So, yeah, for Villarica, keys to success, establish the trenches early. You got Malachi Dunson, who's 6'2", 245. You have Jarius Shivers, the guy I was talking about.
Yep.
His brother plays at
Standout.
South Carolina, 6'4", 315 on that offensive line. So, obviously, if you can establish the trenches early, that gives you a big upper hand. They need to pressure the quarterback. Kamari Humes had 6 sacks in 8 games last year. Tayshawn Thornton, 5'10", 235 senior. He's going to need to collapse the pocket as well. Defensive discipline versus a mobile quarterback. Garrison Edwards, he had 634 rushing yards last season as the backup quarterback. Also 7 rushing touchdowns. So containment and edge setting is going to be critical for that Villarica Wildcat defense. And then get Max Garfield involved, a guy that I would say not a lot of people, doesn't get a lot of talk. 6'2", 180, senior athlete. He's versatile. He can create mismatches in space. And if they can get him going, it's going to be a little bit of a problem for Troup County. Speaking of Troup County, we're going to talk about their keys to success. They need to run the offense through Jay Warner. He had 816 rushing yards last season and 9 rushing touchdowns. He's the workhorse of that offense. Obviously, the more touches he's going to get, the Troop's odds are going to get better. Let Edwards improvise. His dual threat ability can open up the passing game, especially if it's play action. Do you want the defensive front disruption? Jeremiah Culpepper, he had 48 tackles and 8 tackles for loss. Obviously, Skyland Strawn, who we already mentioned, had 82 tackles and 15 tackles for loss. So they can wreak havoc in Villarica's backfield if they want to, and they probably
They're coming at you.
Yeah, and then they're going to need to control tempo. Don't let Villarica's pass rush really intimidate you and get you off of a tee, but Villarica's pass rush is coming for you. But if you can have methodical drives, run heavy drives that just eat up the clock like Buford did to Carrollton in the playoffs last year, right. That can really disrupt Villarica no matter what their defense is looking like. It's a classic speed versus size matchup. Villarica has the size, but Troup has the speed. The first quarter is going to be the tone setter. If Villarica's front seven controls the line, it could be a low scoring slugfest. But if Troup's run game gets going early, that scoreboard's going to light up for Troup County. And turnovers are going to be the swing factor because neither team really has a quarterback with high volume, error-free passing history. And then obviously Matthew Eubanks is his first game as a starter. And that's tough. I mean, first game as a starter on the road, taking on a top 15 team in 3A, and a team that beat you by 30 points last year.
Ready.
I mean, you gotta again, mistakes. You can't afford them.
Yeah, you gotta play tight.
And hopefully his team helps him out with no penalties. With that being said, I have Troup County winning by 17 points, 34-17 at home. Villarica getting the loss week 1.
Well, look, we're wishing all the best, and we've got high hopes for all the teams here in West Georgia. 9 great schools, great football in West Georgia. So we're going to wrap it up with this. Let's go into blitz mode right now. So who's got strength of schedule?
I would say Carrollton has the strongest schedule. I'd say Villarica has the second strongest schedule out of these 9 teams. And I would say Central has the third hardest, but I think it's really close between Villarica and Central.
Moving on. Who's on another level?
Ooh, another level, I'd have to say the obvious answer. Caden Protho, 5-star at Bowden. Ryan Mosley, 4-star at Carrollton. Dorian Barney, 4-star at Carrollton. Obviously, Jonas Walton, 4-star at Central. And I'm going to give an underclassman. I'm going to give Quelly Fielder for Carrollton.
You're high.
I am high on him.
All right.
I have a lot of good things to say about him.
Mr. Fielder, hey, all right. We're expecting big things.
Yep.
Yeah, congratulations, young man. I think he'll be able to do well this year. All right, favorite rivalry. What are you looking forward to?
Historically, my favorite rivalry is Carrollton Central. That's a biased opinion.
Yeah.
Obviously, right now, I would have to say Bremen Bowden because it's the most intense rivalry out of all of the current ones. But historically, it's got to go Carrollton Central.
Oh, no doubt.
Nothing beats that.
And then who's under the radar right now for you?
Under the radar, there's a lot of guys I can pick. I mean, a lot of guys.
Would you say it's a Cam Wood? I mean, just because he's unproven, he not break out yet?
I could probably give one for each team. But for Carrollton especially, it's going to be a guy like Cam Wood.
Maybe this new quarterback Holtzclaw coming in. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think because
maybe it's a CJ Seifert.
Yeah. Well, when I think of unproven, like in those situations, it's because they haven't played at Carrollton yet. And last time we saw Cam Wood play was sophomore year. For Central, you have guys like Lance Simmons. Now he is getting more recruiting attention. He's got offers from like Wake Forest and stuff, Coastal Carolina, I think. But
truly, who's under the radar right now? It one out of all those 9 teams.
Gosh.
All right, be thinking about that one.
I'll think about one. But when I say under the radar, I don't think I can say Cam Wood because he is on a team that gets a lot of exposure.
That's
so
true.
He's not really flying under the radar. I think
He's really high
he has flown under the radar, but right now he's not going to be on it for very long.
Well, in the situation that arose, that he's now the guy, so
Right.
They're all looking to him, and it's all on his shoulders as a senior, and that could be a breakout season for him, and I hope it is. How about freshman phenoms for you?
I'm gonna answer the last one because I think I've come up with it. Now this is a very tough decision, and maybe I'm a little bit iffy on it.
I think with your head, not your heart now.
Under the radar, I'm gonna have to say Brody Buck Cofield from Heard County.
But freshman phenom?
Freshman phenom, obviously you have to go CJ Cypher from Carrollton. I mean, that is my freshman phenom. But there's some other freshmen from teams like at Bremen. They have Tavares Tucker, who's coming in at running back, and he's tiny, but he is shifty. Got some. I'm not sure about Central, about freshmen, but everybody else.
All right, so the last one, you just choose one of the three. So don't sleep on them, dynamic duo, or start them right now.
Pick a don't sleep on them.
Don't sleep on them. Who's not?
Oof. I'm going to say don't sleep on them. I'm going to go, this is kind of an unorthodox pick, but I'm going to say Kent Boyd from Haralson County.
Okay.
I think because of his size,
Yep.
I think he just has so much potential, and he's only a junior. Obviously, you're only as good as your quarterback. You're only as good as your offensive line. All that plays a factor, but I'd have to say he's probably him or Miles George, junior athlete from Villarica. One of those two. Don't sleep on him, but I'd probably say Kent Boyd, and that's kind of an odd pick, just stat-wise.
I'll throw this out there, too. Who was slept on last season?
Ooh. Caden Spratling.
That wraps up the first preview kickoff for the 2025 season with a West Georgia Gridiron Podcast. Mason, I look forward to some exciting days and some games. We look for everybody to win, but I know there will be some that will not come through the way they want to this season.
Hopefully Bremen can beat the bye week.
Right, yeah, with their heads high. But no, it's going to be good. Everybody always looks forward to this season. And so, and look, we're going to be covering also, we've got 8 out of the 9 high schools that also have flag football. So there's going to be a lot of coverage, and then some behind the scenes, some stories, inspiration. We'll be even talking to maybe some of the alumni,
right?
Just kind of catch up. What are they doing? Talk about some Wall of Fame, maybe some of those standout players that went on to college and NFL from this area. All kinds of great stuff that we have to look forward to.
I agree.
Maybe even some of your favorite tailgate recipes. So we'll be having y'all send those in as well and share those. So, but Mason, any final thoughts as we wrap up?
I would just say that I'm ready for football. It's about time that it's come back, and I'm excited for the season. And I think each and every one of these teams has an opportunity to do something exciting, whether that's go win a state championship or just even improve their record from last year. But I'm excited to see where the season goes. I hope it goes great for every team. If I had it my way, every team would win a state championship from around here. Obviously, I know that's not how it works, but obviously go Trojans. I have to say that. I'm just excited for the season to start. I can't wait to see those results on Friday, and hopefully it's a bunch of W's and not a bunch of L's.
Yeah, we'll be coming back to you after the first week's games on Friday nights with a recap from Mason. So look forward to that. And then make sure you're following us on social media. If you would like to listen to that, then obviously you can listen to audio on Apple, Spotify, and then be able to watch it on video on YouTube channel. And then make sure that you're sharing, liking, following, subscribe. Hit the bell, whatever you got to do to make sure you're getting the latest episodes. You don't want to miss out on anything. There's going to be so much content. So, all right. Well, with that, we're going to wrap this up and look forward to coming back on this recap. And with that said, there are nothing like football Fridays in West Georgia.
No, there isn't.
We'll see you soon.